Hello, my name is Ashley Jornsted, and today I'll be talking about humanity in Ender's Game, which is Orson Scott Card's science fiction novel. Specifically, I'll be talking about how Ender's Game reveals the effects that war has on humanity by providing commentary on morality and what it means to be human in the midst of war. So for those of you who have never read Ender's Game or even seen the movie adaptation, I'll be giving a short overview so that you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Ender's Game is set in a future in which many years after humanity has fought off an alien invasion from the alien known as the Formics, who are later only referred to really as buggers. The buggers are technologically superior, and humanity is only able to successfully defend the Earth from luck. So they are still very frightened that the buggers will come back and retaliate. So because of this, all the nations of the Earth decide to pool their armies into one large coalition called the International Fleet. Their sole job is to protect the Earth, and they think in order to do that, eradicating the buggers once and for all would be the best option. However, what the International Fleet doesn't have is a strong or perfect military commander. So they create the battle school, which trains genius children to become soldiers and commanders, all the while looking for the one commander that they really want. So enter Ender Wiggin, which is our main character. At the beginning of the novel, he is 6 years old, and because Ender is brilliant, ruthless, and strategic, he's chosen to go to the battle school with high expectation from his commanding officers that he's the one that they're looking for. And he proves them correctly. All throughout battle schools, he excels. By his preteens, he is in command of the entirety of the International Fleet and going to war against the buggers. Unfortunately, Ender isn't aware of this because as the command structure set up, they made him take game simulations, and he thought the battles were just that. So he accidentally commits xenocide and wipes out the bugger species. Okay, so before we continue, there's important definitions that you need to know. So humanity is defined as two different things: the quality of being humane, and the condition, quality, or fact of being human, human facilities, attributes, characteristics. So pretty much human nature. So humanity is intrinsically linked to being humane, and humane also has two definitions I want to look at. The first of which being feeling or showing compassion towards humans or animals, benevolence, and kindness. It also means calculated to inflict minimal pain and death. So what I want to point out here is that humanity is linked to both being benevolent and being a killer. So the first thing we have to talk about is how Ender represents humanity, and this is both as a commander and as someone who embodies the definition of humane. By being the sole commander of the fleet, Ender physically represents humans in the war against the buggers. This is exemplified when after the war, Ender becomes the face of victory. Okay, so here's where things get a little convoluted, so stay with me. So because Ender is the face of all humanity, he is forced to be two things. One is alone, because he is the sole commander, not anyone else. He also feels the pressure of that position. And two, he's also part of a collective, meaning that because he is a representative, he has to actually represent the will of the people that are backing him, which means that he is humanity. As Colonel Graff puts it, when he talks Ender into going to battle school, he says, "Human beings are free except for when humanity needs them. Maybe humanity needs you." This shows how Ender is the benevolent side of the definition of humane, because he is willing to give up himself in order for humanity. Ender also fulfills the second definition, being a killer, but inflicting minimal damage. There are 2 times in Ender's life where his bullies have gotten violent with him. Both times, Ender protects himself and thoroughly beats his bullies. What he doesn't know is that he actually kills them. He is humane in these killings because of the intention he has behind them. He doesn't mean to kill him. All he means to do is to prevent any future battles by making them afraid of attacking him. In this way, he thinks he saves both of them future pain. The adults actually cover up both instances, so he never actually knows that he killed them. Okay, so now that we know that Ender is humanity's representative, we can talk about the opposite of that. So the International Fleet shows propaganda and actually dehumanizes the buggers, using its name buggers, which is a dysphemism. Ender's Game is applicable to real life because Orson Scott Card actually calls upon dehumanization by using the name bugger for the alien species, which is a dysphemism because actually in World War II there was propaganda that linked the Japanese to insects as well. Edmund Russell, who wrote about how insecticide companies influenced the war, he claims that seeing enemies as vermin must have made it seem natural to talk of extermination. And bugs are less than human on humans' constructed social hierarchy. Smith points out that because killing is mandatory for human survival, it's tempting to fall towards this hierarchy of thinking because it separates one from the atrocities of killing a living being. So jumping back into the world of the novel, humanity aims to eradicate all sympathy towards the buggers so that they can kill them all, essentially. However, we see that Ender still feels empathy towards them, and I'll get into that. So right before Ender became a commander, he learned more about the buggers. Ender's teacher tells him that every single one of our ships contains an intelligent human being who's thinking on his own. Every one of us is capable of coming up with a brilliant solution to a problem. They can only come up with one brilliant solution to a problem at a time. Meaning that the majority of all the buggers are actually just slaves to one queen. And the queen is the only thinking bugger. Because they have no power of speech, they lack common good. And the only good of the buggers is the good of the queen. So the buggers are based on collective thinking and instinct, while humans who have collective aspects boast individuality. However, since I talked about how Ender does feel in between both of these things, as Colonel Graff points out, he says, "We might do despicable things, Ender, but if humankind survives, then we were good tools. Individual human beings are all tools that the others use to help us all survive." In this, we see that Ender is both an individual and a tool for the collective, so he can empathize with the buggers who are also both. To take away from this, Ender, who is humanity's representative, feels sympathy toward a non-human entity. To link this back into the importance of the real world, where Ender is symbolic of humanity and the buggers are symbolic of all the dehumanized humans on opposite ends of war, like the Japanese in World War II, Orson Scott Card calls for us to empathize with our enemies because they're just like us. Card all but says that war is not natural to individuals' humanity through this quote directed towards Ender that says, "We had a commander with so much empathy that he would think like the buggers, understand them and anticipate them. So much compassion that he could win with the love of his underlings and work with them like a perfect machine. As perfect as the buggers, but somebody with that much compassion could never be the killer we needed, could never go into battle willing to win at all costs. If you knew, you couldn't do it. If you were the kind of person who would do it even if you knew, you could never have understood the buggers well enough." So Ender, as humanity's perfect commander, exposes how individuals are not predisposed to war even if humanity needs it from them. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a little something. So sorry about all the spoilers. I really hope that if you haven't read it, you should read Ender's Game. It is quite magnificent.